of the evening. Eagle feather. Know your worth. Know your worth. Eagle feather.
Have you ever heard a story that had touched you so deeply, so profoundly, that it completely changed your whole outlook on life? I mean, a story that is so powerful that it completely changes the way you think, the way you view life, your environment, or yourself. Thank you, Mr. Toastmasters, and welcome, honored and esteemed guests. Well, from my personal experience, I have read such a story. But before I get to that story, let me give you a brief history about myself so you can see why this story was so impactful to me. At 8 years old, I was taken out of the home for child endangerment. At age 12, I got locked up for the first time. From the age 12 to 18, I was ran through the ringer. I'm talking about foster homes, group homes, juvenile penitentiaries, juvenile detention center, mental hospitals. Yes, 4 of them. It wasn't fun. I had issues. But by the age of 18, I was finally released. And I was able to taste freedom for the first time. But it didn't last long. 5 months later, I found myself in prison. And I would spend 18 and a half consecutive years in prison. I would spend more time in prison than I was on the streets. Needless to say, I had become a byproduct of my environment. Now, when I came across this story, I was in Fort Madison. For those of you who don't know, Fort Madison is a maximum security state penitentiary. They have 22 hours a day lockdown. Now, as you can imagine, this was a very, very negative environment. But it has become an environment I was used to, the only environment I had known up to that point. Where the story goes, there was a salesman going door to door to sell things. He had come across a farmer, and his farmer had a chicken coop. And inside his chicken coop, he saw surrounded by a bunch of chickens was an eagle. Now this seller looked and like, is that what I think he is? Farmer's like, yeah, that's an eagle. He's like, how did you come across it? Why is it just sitting there? Why doesn't it fly away? And the farmer explained to him that this egg he had found, didn't know what it was, didn't know its origins. So he gave it to the chickens, and the chickens hatched it. So since birth, this eagle has lived with these chickens. This eagle was clucking, pecking at seeds, flapping its little wings. It was living its life as a chicken. So the door to door salesman had asked this farmer, let me buy that eagle. The farmer was like, for what? It doesn't lay eggs. You can't eat it. It's worthless. It doesn't do anything but eat up all my money, eat up all my seeds. And he said, even so, let me buy it. So he ended up talking the farmer into selling him this eagle. This door to door salesman took this eagle to the top of a cliff, and he held it above his head, and he told this eagle, I'm going to throw you from this cliff. I would rather see you die here today than spend your life thinking that you're something you're not. So he took it and he flung it as far as he could out into the vast emptiness of space. And this eagle was falling. And it was clucking. It was trying to flap its little wings, but it kept falling faster and faster. And for a split second, this door to door salesman had a tinge of regret because he's like, oh my God, I just killed this magnificent beast, this magnificent creature. But at the last second, and for the first time in his life, this eagle spread its powerful wings and began to flap. And for the first time in his life, since its inception, it took flight. Now, the reason this story was so powerful to me is because all my life I was brought up around gangs. I was born in North Omaha, around drugs, around violence. All I knew was violence. And I ended up committing violent crimes and landing in prison. I was acting out my environment. I didn't realize that within me, there was an ego. I didn't realize that within me, there was something more than my environment. Because up until that point, all I knew was my environment. One of the beauties of these little stories is that each and every one of us can relate to being that ego. Whether you're being pushed to be on the soccer team, or whether you're being pushed to become an attorney, don't get me wrong, there's money in attorneys. I know, I'm speaking from experience. There's money there. However, if it's not who you are, if it's not your dream, don't just settle for your environment. Know your worth, know your potential. Don't just follow the crowd, because that ego stood out. Each and every single one of us, including myself, and it took so long for me to understand this. It took me so long for me to learn that there is something magnificent in us, something magnificent in me. And unfortunately, it took 18 years of incarceration to learn this. But I am not a byproduct of my environment. I am that ego. And I'm doing all I can. It's been a struggle since I've been released. I've been out for about 1.5 years. It's been a struggle. But I'm flapping my wings. I'm taking flight. And I just want to say something to people on Facebook. I really, really appreciate the support. I really appreciate the feedback. And for my last speech, I really appreciate people sharing my story, because you never know who's going to need to hear these words. You never know who might need this wisdom, is what my homeboy called it. I love it when he said that, because it makes me feel intelligent. It makes me feel smart. So I appreciate all the support I'm getting. Excuse my voice, I'm a little sick, but I appreciate it. Thank you.